Please stop talking. It is not your time to ask questions. It is not your time. I'm reclaiming my time, Mr. Chair.
I want to know, were there any underage girls at that party or at any party that Trump attended with Jeffrey Epstein?
This is so ridiculous, and that they are trying to deflect from all the great things Donald Trump has done. There is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime. Everyone knows that. This has been the most transparent president.
Okay, so I'm going to conclude that the president, in fact, did know about his ties because he was the next door neighbor.
Shame on you.
Oh, for goodness sakes.
You're
this
from
is
a tiny,
pathetic.
beautiful
This is
state.
pathetic, Mr. Chair.
Will be in order.
I am not asking trick questions here. The American people have a right to know the answers to this. These are senior officials in the Trump administration. This is not a game, Secretary.
I'm Attorney General.
My apologies, I couldn't tell.
Do you even know who Chase Mulligan is? You're so obsessed with, you don't, do you?
I'm going to teach you the rules again. You're the Attorney General of the United States. We have rules here.
You're obsessed with him.
You're the Attorney General of the United States.
With
and the rules.
Obsessed with Donald Trump. You have Trump derangement syndrome.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like my time restored. I'd like my time restored.
In your district. In your district, and you don't even know about it, about keeping children safe from online predators.
Time belongs to the gentleman from Maryland. Gentleman can proceed.
Yes or no, has the Justice Department asked Secretary Lutnick about his ties to Epstein?
Excuse me. Secretary Lutnick has addressed those ties himself.
I'm asking you, has the Justice Department specifically asked Secretary Lutnick about his ties to Jeffrey Epstein?
He has addressed those ties himself.
Listen up, folks. This is the raw, unfiltered truth about how the Trump regime's top cop, Attorney General Pam Bondi, marched into the House Judiciary Committee on February 11th, 2026, and turned a routine oversight hearing into a blatant display of cover-up, deflection, and outright contempt for Epstein's victims. This wasn't just any hearing. It was a battlefield where Democrats fought tooth and nail to expose the DOJ's botched handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files, all while Bondi stonewalled, insulted, and protected her boss, Donald Trump, at every turn. And remember, this video is for you, the left-wing warriors who've been screaming from the rooftops about Trump's sleazy ties to that paedophile monster Epstein. We're not mincing words here. We're hitting hard with facts, because the truth is aggressive, and it's on our side. Let's break down exactly what happened, minute by minute, exchange by exchange, so you can see the corruption unfold. The hearing kicked off at 10 a.m. in the Rayburn House office building, with the room packed tighter than a Trump rally lie. 11 Epstein survivors sat right behind Bondi, their faces a silent indictment of the DOJ's failures. They wore shirts blasting the redactions, demanding justice after years of being ignored, abused, and now re-traumatized by Bondi's bungled file releases. Before we continue, if you value independent, fact-driven analysis of US politics and social policy, take a moment to like this video and subscribe. We spend days digging into legislation, economic data, and real community impact, so we can go beyond partisan soundbites and break down how policies actually affect working people. Your support helps this kind of research-heavy, accountability-focused content reach more viewers, especially at a time when informed discussion matters most. It also allows us to keep producing deep dives on inequality, healthcare, civil rights, labor, and the forces shaping American democracy. Now, let's get back to Bondi's testimony. Chair Jim Jordan, that Republican hack who spent his career covering for predators, remember his Ohio State wrestling scandal, opened with softball praise for Bondi. You've reduced crime by 15%, cracked down on illegal immigration like never before, he gushed, ignoring the elephant in the room, the Epstein files. But ranking member Jamie Raskin didn't let that slide. He came out swinging, fact after fact. You're running a massive Epstein cover-up right out of the Department of Justice. You've been subpoenaed, ordered by Congress to release these files, but instead you've redacted the names of powerful predators while exposing victims' nude photos, addresses, and identities. This is a betrayal of justice, siding with perpetrators over survivors. Bondi, perched at the witness table in her power suit, looking every bit the Trump loyalist she is, delivered her opening statement like a scripted infomercial. "I've spent my career fighting for victims," she claimed, her voice dripping with false sincerity. Fact check. As Florida AG, Bondi took a $25,000 donation from Trump's foundation right after dropping a probe into Trump University. Coincidence? Hardly. She called Epstein a monster and said she was deeply sorry for what victims endured. But notice, no direct apology for her DOJ's screw-ups. She bragged about releasing over 3 million pages, 180,000 images, under the Epstein Files Transparency Act that Trump signed under duress last November. But here's the aggressive truth. She only released half the required 6 million documents and the redactions. A joke. Powerful men's names blacked out, victims' lives endangered, pending investigations. She teased them but gave zero details. "We're investigating any credible allegations," she said vaguely, as if that erases the fact that Ghislaine Maxwell is the only one convicted since 2021, while co-conspirators walk free. Then the questioning exploded. First up, Representative Pramila Jayapal, a fierce progressive from Washington, armed with damning exhibits. She held up a redacted email from Epstein to an unnamed man, later revealed as a CEO with ties to Trump and Steve Bannon. "Why did you redact the abuser's name but leave survivors' names, addresses, and even nude photos unredacted?" Jayapal demanded, her voice cutting like a knife. Fact. The DOJ violated the Victims Protection Act, exposing info protected for decades. Jayapal turned to the survivors. "If you haven't met with the DOJ, please stand." All 11 rose, a gut punch moment. "Will you apologise to these women for putting their lives at risk?" Jayapal pressed. Bondi's response. Pure deflection. "I'm not going to get in the gutter with this woman's theatrics," she snarled, refusing to even turn and face the victims. "Unprofessional," she muttered under her breath. Jayapal fired back. "This is about humanity, not theatrics." The room erupted in crosstalk, Jordan banging his gavel like a toddler. Why did Bondi say that? Because admitting fault would crack the Trump shield. She's there to protect the boss, not the victims. Next, Representative Ted Lieu, the California Democrat and former prosecutor, went nuclear on Trump's ties. He flashed unredacted files showing Trump on Epstein's jet 8 times in the 90s, party footage from 1992 where Trump and Epstein leer at young women at Mar-a-Lago. "Your DOJ memo said there's no credible evidence Epstein trafficked to anyone but himself. That's a lie," Lieu accused, citing witness statements like the limo driver's claim that Trump knew Epstein's taste for underage girls. "Did you investigate Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, Navy Secretary John Phelan, or Deputy Defense Secretary Steve Feinberg, all Trump appointees named in the files?" Bondi squirmed. "Lutnick has addressed his ties. There's no evidence against President Trump." Lieu pushed. "You're lying under oath about files surrounding Trump." Bondi exploded. "Don't you ever accuse me of a crime." Why the rage? Because the facts tied Trump directly to Epstein's world. Jet logs, phone records, even a 2006 call where Trump thanked a police chief for busting Epstein, contradicting his later denials of knowing about the crimes. Bondi's defending a man who's been accused by at least one Epstein victim of rape, dropped lawsuit in 2016. And she knows the left sees this as the smoking gun. Representative Jasmine Crockett, the fiery Texas Democrat, stormed in next, facts flying. "You gave Republican influencers part 1 of the Epstein files, claimed a list was on your desk, then a memo says no list exists. Trump calls it a hoax, blasts his base for wanting releases, blames Obama. Republicans even voted against full disclosure." Crockett slammed Bondi for firing a prosecutor who said there was no evidence for more charges, despite files showing a global trafficking ring from Poland to Paris. "This is a cover-up for pedophiles and traffickers," Bondi shot back with personal attacks. "You're distracting from President Trump's successes. The stock market's up." Crockett, incredulous, stormed out. "This witness doesn't understand testifying. She's a lawyer. This is a sham." Why Crockett's fury? Because Bondi's why they're saying it is clear. Distract, deny, protect Trump. Whistleblowers revealed Bondi ordered 1,000 FBI agents to scrub Trump mentions from 100,000 records on a rushed deadline. That's not oversight, that's obstruction. Even Republicans cracked the facade. Representative Thomas Massie, the libertarian-leaning Kentuckian, joined the assault, bipartisan fact-slamming. He displayed 3 DOJ docs, one with unredacted victim names despite a do-not-release list, another redacting Les Wexner as a co-conspirator in child trafficking until court, over-redacted, unsearchable files. This is a massive failure bigger than Watergate, Massie thundered. Who obscured Wexner's name? He allegedly received trafficked girls. Your DOJ protected him. Bondi lashed out. You have Trump derangement syndrome, you failed politician. Why didn't you demand this from Merrick Garland? Massie. We passed the act under Trump. Your watch. Fact. Wexner's name appeared 4,000 times elsewhere, unredacted in 40 minutes after exposure. But why redact initially? Wexner, Victoria's Secret mogul, claims Epstein stole $46 million from him, but files suggest deeper involvement. Bondi's deflection? Blame Obama-era cover-ups. But facts don't lie. This spanned Bush, Obama, Biden, but under Trump, the redactions favour elites like UAE's Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, Italian politician Nicola Caputo, all potentially tied to Trump's circle. Representative Jamie Raskin, the constitutional scholar from Maryland, kept the pressure on prosecutions, or lack thereof. How many co-conspirators have you indicted? 0. You fired the prosecutor, exposed victims, protected abusers. This DOJ is Trump's revenge machine, prosecuting Comey, Letitia James, while Epstein's pals skate. Bondi. No one is above the law, but I can't comment on pending investigations. Raskin. Pending? It's been years. Maxwell's the only one in jail. Why no action? Because indicting Wexner or Prince Andrew, files show him in compromising photos, settled with victim Virginia Giuffre in 2022, might unravel threads leading to Trump. Bondi even demanded Democrats apologize to Trump for focusing on this distraction. Raskin retorted, apologize? For exposing a cover-up? The hearing dragged into hour 4 with more fireworks. Representative Becca Balint, DVT, grilled on Trump officials' Epstein links. Lutnick met Epstein multiple times, investigated. Bondi. Stunned you'd ignore a Border Patrol agent's death for this. Balint. No trick questions, the public deserves to know. Bondi misfired on Balint's voting record, prompting, my grandfather died in the Holocaust, don't lecture me. Representative Hank Johnson, DGA, called Bondi's dual personality Jekyll and Hyde, sweet to Republicans, hostile to Dems. Bondi. You're about as good a lawyer as when you impeached Trump. Johnson. Sloppy, incompetent DOJ outing victims. The room's tension spiked further when Representative Jerry Nadler, DNY, the veteran judiciary member, took his turn. Nadler, slow and deliberate, laid out the timeline like a prosecutor building a case. Let's be clear, Jeffrey Epstein died in 2019 under suspicious circumstances while in federal custody. The autopsy was contested, the cameras malfunctioned, guards falsified logs. Fast forward to 2025. President Trump signs the Transparency Act amid public outrage. Yet under your leadership, the DOJ has released only a fraction of the files, with redactions that conveniently shield anyone close to the administration. Commerce Secretary Lutnick flew with Epstein at least twice after 2008, post-conviction. Deputy Defense Secretary Feinberg's name appears in massage appointment books. Why no subpoenas? Why no grand juries? Bondi snapped. Because evidence matters, not innuendo. We've reviewed thousands of documents. There is no client list, no secret ledger of billionaires and politicians. The media and Democrats invented that myth. Nadler countered. You yourself said on Fox News in December 2025 that a client list was sitting on your desk. Now your own memo denies it exists. Which is it, Madam Attorney General? Were you lying then, or are you lying now? Bondi bristled. I was referring to the broader files. Context matters. But the context was damning. Bondi had hyped the release to Trump's base, promising bombshells that would shock the world, only to deliver heavily censored documents that protected Trump allies while exposing victims. Why the flip-flop? Because the unredacted files contained too much risk. Mentions of Trump's name in contexts that, while not criminal on their face, fed the narrative of proximity to evil. Survivors in the audience shifted uncomfortably as the hearing moved into victim testimony segments. One woman, speaking under pseudonym Jane Doe 12, described being trafficked at 16 to Epstein's Palm Beach mansion in 2005. I was told powerful men would be there. I saw Donald Trump once, at a party. He didn't touch me, but he laughed when Epstein made jokes about young talent. I reported it years later. No one followed up. Bondi interjected through her counsel. This is not the forum for new allegations, but Jane Doe pressed on. The files mention my name 47 times, unredacted, my school, my parents' address. If traffickers find me, that's on your DOJ. The gallery gasped. Jordan tried to cut her off, citing time limits, but Raskin objected. Let her speak. This is why we're here. Bondi stared straight ahead, refusing eye contact. Why the coldness? Because any acknowledgement would validate the survivor's pain and undermine the administration's line that everything possible was done. Instead, Bondi pivoted to statistics. In fiscal year 2025, my DOJ arrested 1,742 individuals for child exploitation, up 10% from the prior year. Noble numbers, but irrelevant. None of those arrests stemmed from the Epstein network. Maxwell remains the lone high-profile conviction. No pilots, no recruiters, no recipients of trafficked girls have faced new charges under Bondi. Representative Troy Garcia from Illinois hammered the point home. You claim to champion victims, yet 11 survivors are here today and not one has met with your office. Not one received a courtesy call before their identities were exposed. That's not championing, that's abandonment. Garcia read from an internal DOJ email chain obtained via whistleblower, an agent warning superiors that redactions appear selective, high-profile names prioritized over victim PII. Bondi dismissed it. Whistleblowers often have axes to grind. We've investigated every claim internally. Garcia: internally? Like the way you investigated Trump University in Florida. Dropped after a donation, Bondi shot back. That's ancient history and irrelevant. But it's not. Bondi's loyalty to Trump dates back to her Florida days, defending him against fraud claims, joining his impeachment defense team, and now running the DOJ like a personal law firm. Garcia concluded, this isn't justice, this is protection racket for the elite. As the clock ticked past 3 hours, Representative Zoe Lofgren, DCA, brought receipts, literally. She projected screenshots from the released files, a 1997 flight log with Trump's name circled in red by an unknown hand, a 2002 message from Epstein to Trump saying the girls were a hit last weekend, and a victim deposition excerpt where she described being loaned out to a New York real estate developer matching Trump's description. These aren't conspiracy theories, Lofgren stated flatly. These are in your own released documents. Yet your memo claims no credible evidence of trafficking to third parties. Explain the discrepancy. Bondi: isolated social contacts do not equal criminality. President Trump cut ties with Epstein in 2007 after learning of his behavior. Lofgren: cut ties? He called Epstein in 2008 to thank Palm Beach police for the bust. That's not cutting ties. That's staying in touch. The exchange grew heated. Jordan warned of decorum. But Lofgren wouldn't relent. The American people deserve the full truth, not half-redacted files curated to protect one man. The hearing's energy shifted again as Representative Pramila Jayapal reclaimed time for a second round. She returned to the survivors standing behind Bondi. Madam Attorney General, these women have waited decades for justice. Many have never received compensation from Epstein's estate because of endless legal delays. Now, thanks to your department's reckless release, some fear retaliation. One survivor here today had her workplace address leaked in an unredacted employee list from Epstein's Zorro Ranch. She's had to relocate. Will you commit, right now, on the record, to personally meet with these survivors and provide immediate victim services? Bondi paused, then said flatly, my office is always open to victims. We've allocated additional resources for support. Jayapal: that's not a commitment to meet them. That's a press release. Look them in the eye and say you'll sit down with them. Bondi turned slightly, but avoided direct gaze. I have met with victims throughout my career. I will continue to do so. The evasion was palpable. Why refuse a simple meeting? because any direct engagement would humanize the survivors in a way that contradicts the administration's narrative of case closed, move on. It would also open the door to questions about why the DOJ hadn't reached out proactively before the release. Representative Ted Lieu returned for follow-up, zeroing in on the Trump-specific mentions. Let's cut through the noise. Page 4872 of the released batch, a 1995 entry in Epstein's Black Book with Donald Trump, Mar-a-Lago underlined, followed by a note, prefers younger. Page 12,319, a message from Epstein to a mutual contact saying, DT enjoyed the weekend, send more like her. These are your department's own documents. How can you stand here and claim no credible evidence linking President Trump to Epstein's activities? Bondi. Social acquaintances do not constitute evidence of criminal conduct. President Trump has stated repeatedly he banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago after learning of inappropriate behavior. Any suggestion otherwise is a smear. Lieu. Banned him? Then why did Epstein's pilot log Trump on flights in 1997 after the supposed ban? Why did Trump tell New York Magazine in 2002 that Epstein was a terrific guy who liked them on the younger side? These aren't democratic inventions. They're public record and now in your files. Bondi raised her voice. You're cherry-picking quotes to fit a narrative. The president cooperated fully with every investigation into Epstein. There's no there. But the there was mounting. Flight logs showing 7 to 8 confirmed trips. Mar-a-Lago security logs placing Trump and Epstein together at events with young women present. And a 2019 statement from Trump himself saying he was not a fan after Epstein's arrest. Convenient amnesia for a man who partied with him for over a decade. As the afternoon wore on, Representative Jasmine Crockett re-entered the fray after her earlier walkout. I couldn't stay away because this is too important. You sat here and called legitimate questions theatrics. You insulted survivors by refusing to face them. You protected billionaires like Les Wexner, who bankrolled Epstein for years, by redacting his name until journalists forced your hand. Wexner gave Epstein power of attorney over his fortune. Victim statements say Wexner knew girls were underage, yet no charges. Why? Bondi. Mr. Wexner has denied wrongdoing and cooperated with authorities. Allegations remain unproven. Crockett. Unproven because your DOJ won't prove them. You released files showing Wexner wired money to recruiters in Europe. That's not unproven, that's evidence ignored. The exchange escalated when Crockett accused Bondi of perjury over the client list contradiction. Bondi, I never promised a mythical list. I promised transparency, and that's what we've delivered. Crockett, half the files censored to save your boss's friends. That's not transparency, that's a whitewash. Even as Democrats pressed, some Republican cracks widened. Representative Chip Roy, R. Texas, usually a Trump defender, spoke up. Look, I supported the Transparency Act because the American people deserve answers. But these redactions are indefensible. We can't have one standard for victims and another for powerful men. Madam Attorney General, commit to a timeline for full unredaction. Bondi. We're working as fast as possible consistent with law and victim safety. Roy. That's the same answer we've heard for months. Victims are suffering now. It was a rare bipartisan moment of accountability, quickly drowned out by Jordan redirecting to Bondi's successes on fentanyl seizures and border arrests. Representative Hank Johnson circled back to process failures. Your department employed AI-assisted redaction tools that reportedly misidentified victim information as non-sensitive. How many errors were caught before release? How many after? Bondi. We conducted multiple quality checks. Mistakes happen in large-scale declassification. Johnson. Mistakes that endanger lives aren't acceptable. One survivor here had her child's school listed. That's not a mistake. That's negligence. Bondi offered no specifics, only assurances of corrective action. By hour 5, exhaustion mixed with fury. Representative Jamie Raskin closed his final round. This hearing has revealed a DOJ that prioritizes loyalty over justice, protection over prosecution, and power over people. 11 survivors sit behind you, unseen and unheard by their own Attorney General. The files you control could bring closure or continued cover-up. Choose wisely. Bondi. I choose justice every day. And justice requires facts, not headlines. But the facts spoke louder. Selective redactions, no new indictments, victims re-traumatized, and a president whose name threads through the documents like a persistent shadow. The gavel finally fell. No votes, no resolutions, just a stark display of institutional rot. Survivors filed out quietly, many in tears. Democrats vowed continued subpoenas. Bondi left flanked by security, head high, but the damage was done. For those watching from the left, this wasn't a hearing, it was confirmation. Trump's inner circle guards the gates, and Pam Bondi holds the keys. The Epstein files aren't just history, they're the blueprint for how the powerful evade accountability. We keep fighting, full release, real prosecutions, no more shields for predators. If this video helped you better understand what's happening in American politics and policy, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive. We focus on the issues that directly impact the American people, from healthcare and wages to civil rights and corporate accountability. And we go beyond the headlines to unpack what the facts actually shows. We also want to hear from you. Share your thoughts, disagreements, and questions in the comments. Thoughtful discussion is how we push these conversations forward. Your support makes it possible to keep producing research-driven, people-centered analysis that challenges power and highlights the voices too often ignored. Thanks for watching and for staying engaged in the fight for a more informed, equitable democracy.